History was made in 2018 when Pakistan's Federally Administered Tribal Areas, or FATA, were merged with Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, KP, in the hope that FATA would finally develop and prosper. But less than a year later, a draconian ordinance was passed surreptitiously on 5th August 2019. This ordinance will have serious consequences, not only for the former region of FATA, but for the entire province of KP. Soch explains the action in aid of Civil Power Ordinance 2019. Before 2018, FATA had special administrative status in Pakistan's constitution and was listed separately from Sindh, Punjab, Balochistan and KP. The region was governed differently from the 4 provinces. But before we delve into how FATA was treated differently, we must ask, why? In order to understand the historical context of this ordinance, we must go back to 1901 to Lord Curzon's frontier policy. The territory now known as KP was previously managed by the government of the Punjab. But because Lord Curzon saw Tsarist Russia as an external threat to the empire, he decided the frontier region should be managed more directly by the government of India. The British also stereotyped Pashtuns as a special threat due to their opposition to colonization. Therefore, the empire introduced the Frontier Crimes Regulations Act in 1901, also known as the FCR, to govern the frontier while the rest of British India was governed by the India Act of 1858. In 1947, in exchange for an agreement to accede to the new state of Pakistan, the Pakistani government agreed not to interfere with tribal customs and to allow the region to remain semi-autonomous. And with this, the system introduced under the FCR continued within Pakistan. The FCR laws were lifted from KP and Balochistan in 1956 and 1973 respectively, but they remained in place in FATA until 2018 when the region was merged with KP. Under this act, a political agent is appointed who has vast unchecked powers, both judicial and executive. The laws deny the people of FATA many basic human rights, such as the right to a lawyer, the right to present reasoned evidence in court, and the right to appeal a conviction. The act was also used to collectively punish entire tribes and confiscate property. The PPP government amended the FCR Act in 2011. However, human rights groups stated that amendments to the FCR were cosmetic and the law still fell short of international fair trial requirements. But what does the FCR have to do with the new ordinance? They are strangely connected. Let's take a look at the timeline. The FCR Act was amended in August 2011, but only 2 months prior, in June 2011, the original Action in Aid of Civil Power Regulations were promulgated. The 2011 regulations apply to former FATA and the region formerly known as PATA. According to Amnesty International, the armed forces were opposed to PPP's amendments to the FCR. As a result, these changes were only approved after the 2011 regulations were put in place. This granted the military sweeping powers and protections, and essentially replaced the FCR Act. So, what's the difference between the recent KP Actions in Aid of Civil Powers Ordinance 2019 and the original 2011 regulations? Soch spoke to 4 lawyers to find out.
एक्शंस इन एड ऑफ सिविल पावर ऑर्डिनेंस में वो सब मसाइल हैं जो 2011 की एक्शंस इन एड ऑफ सिविल पावर रेगुलेशंस में थे. एक परेशान कुन फ़र्क ये है कि जो रेगुलेशंस थीं वो सिर्फ फॉर्मर फेडरली एडमिनिस्टर्ड ट्राइबल एरियाज़ और फॉर्मर प्रोविंशली एडमिनिस्टर्ड ट्राइबल एरियाज़ में अप्लाई करती थीं, लेकिन ये जो ऑर्डिनेंस है ये पूरे खैबर पख्तूनख्वा के सूबे में अप्लाई करती है. स्पेसिफिकली एक्शंस इन एड ऑफ सिविल पावर ऑर्डिनेंस रियासत को इख्तियार देती है कि वो किसी भी ऐसे शख्स को जो फ़ौज की नज़र में अमन के लिए ख़तरा है उसको चार्ज किए बगैर, जज के सामने पेश किए बगैर तवील अरसे के लिए इंटर्नमेंट सेंटर्स में डिटेन कर सकती है.
Instruments like the KP Actions in Aid of Civil Power Ordinance 2019 are reflective of a problem faced not only by Pakistan but by an international community that is increasingly pushing for clampdowns on human rights on the basis of national security, extraordinary circumstances, exceptional situations, situations of novel threats. The general sentiment that backs repressive instruments like these is this almost hysterical belief that we are constantly under attack, not from external enemies, but from enemies within our own borders. Unfortunately, in Pakistan, these sorts of authoritarian laws often go unchecked because ceding our civil liberties has just become the norm. I think it's time to accept that we have been living in what can be called extraordinary times or exceptional times for many years now, and that any new challenges we face can be dealt with while still adhering to basic human rights that we are guaranteed under our constitution and under international human rights law.
But how and why was this ordinance even introduced?
You see, I believe the rest of the world similarly came to know about this ordinance while attending court proceedings at the Peshawar High Court. You see, following the passage of the 25th Amendment, these tribal districts had been merged into the province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And as a result, a lot of petitioners have challenged the internment of various people, including the authorization to have internment centers under the 2011 regulations, which should stand defunct after the passage of the 25th Amendment, as those areas are no longer directly run by the central government. And it was during court proceedings on this matter in which the Attorney General made a positive submission before the court that the regulations through ordinance had been extended to the whole province and that this action had been done on the 5th of August. We were not made aware as to whether such an ordinance was published.
देखिए 25वीं तरमीम जब आई आपके आइन के अंदर, जो पिछली हुकूमत के तकरीबन आखिरी हफ्ते में आई, तो उसके बाद लोगों को लग रहा था कि फाटा को केपी की पेस पे लेके आया जाएगा, फास्ट ट्रैक कर दिया जाएगा। मगर फिर एक रेगुलेशन आई, एक लॉ पास किया गया, फाटा इंटरिम गवर्नेंस रेगुलेशन, जिसके तहत वही पुराना निज़ाम पॉलिटिकल एजेंट वाला, ये एक ब्यूरोक्रेट अंदाता है पूरे इलाके का, जो चाहे कर सकता है, जुडिशल पावर्स भी उसके पास हैं, पुलिसिंग पावर्स भी उसके पास हैं, वो मेंटेन किया गया। उसको चैलेंज किया गया सुप्रीम कोर्ट में और जनवरी 2019 में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने फैसला सुनाया कि इस तरह के कोई भी कानून जो फाटा की ग्रोथ में, फाटा को पाकिस्तान के बाकी शहरियों के बराबर हकूक़ देने में खलल डाल रहे हैं, ये गैर आइनी है और 6 महीने के अंदर हुकूमत वो सारे इंतजाम करे कि फाटा में रहने वाले लोगों को तमाम हकूक़ हासिल हों जो बाकी केपी के अंदर लोगों को हासिल हैं। 6 महीने बाद ये तोहफ़ा हमारे पास आया है कि अब किसी को कोई हकूक़ हासिल नहीं है।
Let's recap. FATA has been governed under different versions of the same regressive colonial laws for the last 100 years. In a sense, nothing has changed. The same laws have been called many names. Now, they're called the KP Actions in Aid of Civil Power Ordinance 2019. Lawyers and human rights activists have filed multiple petitions against the promulgation of this ordinance. A Peshawar High Court order even declared the ordinance, as well as internment centers, illegal. However, the Supreme Court swiftly intervened and suspended the order. The case will now be taken up in the Supreme Court with the constitution of a larger bench. Chief Justice Khosa said the Apex Court will ensure fundamental rights as guaranteed in the Constitution were not infringed at any cost. But when we consider the way FATA has been governed for the last century, we wonder if the fundamental rights of the people of the KP will actually be protected. And, more importantly, we have to ask, when are we going to stop colonizing our own people?
किसी भी इंसान को उसकी शनाख्त पे, ज़बान पे, रंग पे, नस्ल पे या मज़हब के ऊपर अगर आप तनकीद का निशाना बनाएंगे, उसके साथ जानिबदार रवैया अपनाएंगे, उसके साथ बेतबारी या शक की निगाह से उसे देखेंगे, जुल्म करेंगे, तो हो सकता है इसके अंदर एक रेडिकल एलिमेंट पैदा हो।